So here we are at the 100 video mark here on KaijuCanuck. Thank you to everyone who watches, likes, comments, and subscribes to the content that I put out there. I'm constantly blown away by how fast we've grown at this rate, at this pace, and the amount of time that's gone by. And so to commemorate this milestone, I put out a community post, I think 2 weeks ago at this point, asking, do you have any questions for me that you would like me to answer? Ask me anything, all that good stuff. And then I basically got sick for a week, and you might even still hear it in my nose a little bit. But here we are. I've got a whole bunch of questions, including possibly the most important question regarding the future of this channel. But we've got some really fun ones along the way, and I think with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So the very first one, a very important question. What's your favorite dinosaur? Okay, so if there's anything I know about, dinosaur fans on the internet, they can be very passionate, and so I need to make sure that my response is properly contextualized. I grew up around the time that Jurassic Park 3 came out, and so the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus is my personal favorite dinosaur. I understand all of the recent discoveries that indicate Spinosaurus is not how we believed it was back in, whenever the third Jurassic Park movie came out, but that is my favorite incarnation of that dinosaur, that genome, that whatever. I'm sorry. What do you think about the continuation of the MonsterVerse? What do you want to and expect to see in the future of the MonsterVerse? And in the future, how will the MonsterVerse affect the Godzilla franchise or Kaiju franchise in general? Yeah, so I mean, at this point in time, we've got a sequel to Godzilla Kong greenlit. We've got a second season of Monarch on the way with multiple spin-offs. I'm sure there's comic books on the way. There's video games being developed. The MonsterVerse has never been in a better spot at the 10-year mark. And I think that the best thing about where we are with the MonsterVerse now is the opportunity. There are different avenues we can take, different tones that different projects can take, different mediums that allow you to tell different stories. There's just so much here that can be done. I think that the movies can continue to coexist with what Toho's doing. They can really capitalize on the monstrous action that the casual moviegoer is very interested in seeing, while Toho can handle some of those more intimate and thoughtful pieces. That being said, I'm very aware that many people don't like the current direction that the MonsterVerse has taken, but I think it's important to say that a lot of other people do like the direction that the MonsterVerse is going in, and I hope that we can come to a point in time, if it's not been the past 8 months or so, where everyone who is part of this franchise can get something that they want to see. That's the hope anyway. Do you think compelling human characters make Godzilla movies automatically better? Yes. I think that compelling human characters make any kind of movie better. If you could have any piece of Godzilla merchandise, one real and one made up, for no cost at all, what would it be? So the way I'm interpreting this question is there a piece of Godzilla merchandise out there that I would really like? And is there one that I would like to see? And I really thought critically about this question, and I don't think there's any Godzilla merchandise out there that I'm really burning to have. I think I've got all the stuff that I really want based on what's out there. But I guess an answer to this question would be, I would love to have that original NECA G85 prototype. I'm sure it exists somewhere out there, and I would love for it to be in my collection. As for a made-up figure that doesn't exist yet, Mecha Titanosaurus. If I'm shooting for the sky, I'm going to go with Mecha Titanosaurus based off that one manga panel. How many Playmates figures have you collected? 35. What other genre do you want to see the MonsterVerse dabble their feet into? Horror, mystery? We already got lots of comedy. Horror. I absolutely want to see horror. I want to see a small-scale human threat, something a little bit claustrophobic, a little bit moody, with real stakes. You have characters picked off one by one, something like that. Also, do you think the world would be willing to give kaiju genre another stab at original monster film, for example, Cloverfield? I think the ambiguity of that monster was amazing to want to know more going into sequels and the parallel dimension and all that. And yeah, my short answer is yes. I think that kaiju films are a genre in and of themselves, and there are many different stories that could be told with the kaiju genre. You could use the kaiju genre as metaphors for different things. We've seen it with Shin Godzilla, being a metaphor of the Japanese government's response to the Fukushima incident. So yeah, I think that if the story is right, people are going to be willing to give it a shot. One of my channel members, Dunkin' Donuts, decided to do a whole list of questions that he had for me. So I think for this segment of the video, we're going to do a little bit of a speed round. So let's get started. Why do we say we're taking a shit when we leave one? What? Why do we park in a driveway and drive in a parkway? Should vegetarians eat animal crackers? Why do we cook bacon but bake cookies? Make it stop. Are eyebrows facial hair? Yes. On a scale from 1 to 10, which number in the alphabet is your favorite color? Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a mental break, but I'm back. We're good. Let's keep going. If you had to value your collection in number of days worked in a coal mine, how many days would it be? Well, judging by this part of my collection and this part of my collection, some of these and then all of those, and considering the fact that a coal miner in Canada makes like just under 40 Canadian dollars an hour, I'd probably guess maybe 16 days. But then you have union and taxes. About a month. Month seems right. So how do you feel about Methuselah possibly not being in the MonsterVerse? For context, Summit Kaiju has issued a copyright infringement lawsuit against Legendary Pictures for the design of Methuselah because it looks similar to Batholith, and I just want to hear your thoughts. Last I heard that the case didn't really move forward and it was dismissed or something like that. I could be wrong. It's incredibly disappointing, to be frank. I thought Methuselah was one of the coolest kaiju from King of the Monsters in concept, but then we also got the concept art, which showed her in their sort of full form, and the fact that we may not see Methuselah in future projects really makes me upset. The fact that we might not see merchandise makes me very upset. I know some people were saying that the reason we can't see merchandise is because only concept art exists of the monster, not a fully finished CG file, and I think that this is not an isolated incident. I think there have been a few cases where a design has been unfinished and left for companies to finish. Super 7, for example, had an unfinished Godzilla -1 file when they were designing their product. They had to sculpt the hands, the eyes, they had to design all that stuff themselves. So whatever hurdles there are in the way, I really hope that we get some official Methuselah merchandise at some point in the future. What's your opinion on ices, slushies, etc.? I love slushies. Oh my god. For the longest time, my go-to drink at the movie theater was a blue slushie. You know, it's chocked full of sugar, but it was like, you know, I'm only going to go see 3 or 4 movies a year. I want to get my slushie, and now all the theaters around me don't sell slushies anymore, so that's really disappointing. How did you get into Godzilla, and what is your favorite Godzilla film of each era? So I really love this question. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the concept of a salvage shop, but basically when shipments from, you know, manufacturers get damaged in transit and either the store no longer wants to sell them or the manufacturer can't really offload them, you get these salvage shops that will buy the stock at a huge discount, a massive discount, and then sell it back to the consumer at a reduced cost, you know, acknowledging that the goods are damaged in some shape or form. When I was really little, one day I came home and my mom, who would constantly shop at these salvage shops because the prices were very good, she had given me a VHS of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 1991. I think she just thought, oh, like it's dinosaurs on the front, like, you know, maybe my kid will like it. And little did she know that that just set me on the trajectory for the rest of my life. And one thing that was really cool is that my dad used to grow up with Saturday morning monster films on television, and he used to be like really enraptured by them. And so for him to see that I was starting to get into those things, I think that was pretty cool to him. And so he actually bought me my second movie, which was Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. And then at some point he started talking to me about this other monster that he used to see on TV when he was growing up called Gamera, who was a giant turtle. And then one of my birthdays, he bought me a Gamera VHS type, and I got to see Gamera for the first time, which was amazing. So yeah, that's how I got into Godzilla. And for the better, you know, 90% of my life, I haven't really been able to share my excitement about this franchise with other people. And so to have a YouTube channel where so many people watch and engage, and, you know, we have discussions where people agree on some things, disagree on some things, always, or at least for the most part, it's respectful, but it's been a little bit of a whiplash, and it can be overwhelming at times to go from having nobody to talk to having so many people to talk to. As for my favorite film from each era, Showa is Terror of Mechagodzilla, Heisei is Godzilla vs. Biollante, Millennium is GMK, and Reiwa era is The Planet Eater. I'm just kidding. It's Godzilla -1. What is your favorite part and biggest issue of the Godzilla community? Show no mercy. So I think the biggest thing about the Godzilla community that I really love is the creativity out there. You see people doing photography, fan animations, you know, custom figures, 3D models of their own. You know, you have folks like Titanic Creations out there that are making their own kaiju figures, really niche properties. That's all really amazing to me. And I think another piece is the sense of community that there is between people trying to help one another out, where to find certain figures, or, you know, if somebody's like, hey, I'm trying to buy this figure, and someone else is pretty quick to come out of the woodwork and say, hey, like, I have that figure, I'll sell it to you at a reasonable price. I would say for the most part, everyone is really willing to help one another and to get to enjoy this community to its fullest, and to enjoy this hobby to its fullest, which is always really nice to see. Biggest issue of the Godzilla community. So I think if you are a longtime viewer, you might already know my first response. If you know, you know. But the second piece, I think, is something that is not relegated to simply the Godzilla community. It's something that's a little bit more widespread, but I'm experiencing it most in the Godzilla community, I think for fairly obvious reasons. I would say that there is a small number of people, you know, proportionally speaking, that have the least gratitude for the position we find ourselves in and the amount of product and media out there. And just so we don't get it twisted, I'm not saying that you should be grateful for a $140 Monster Arts figure that comes with the eyes misprinted, right? I'm not saying that, or that you should love the Monsterverse and you should be so ecstatic and enthralled about it. What I'm saying is that there's so much out there that not all of it is going to be for you, right? Like, there are Godzilla Funko Pops out there, reaction figures, Monster Arts, Haya, you know, Ultimates. Like, there's so much out there. You don't have to like all of it. Not all of it is targeted for you. And I think that most people in a healthy state of mind are able to say, yeah, I don't like this thing or these sets of things, but I'm happy for the people that do like them. And then you have this small group of people who just are seemingly incapable of that and are just like, no, this thing is stupid and it shouldn't exist, and, you know, why would you buy that thing when you can buy this other thing which is cheaper or better or whatever. And the way I think about it is like this. You know, I'm somewhat of a foodie. I do all the cooking in my house. I would say that one of the cuisines that I don't really care to enjoy when we go out for dinner is Italian food. I don't hate Italian food. I actually do enjoy Italian food. It's just that when we go out to a restaurant to sit down, I feel like paying $25 for a bowl of pasta is a bit of a ripoff. But for the folks who are into it, great. You know, all the power in the world. I'm happy for them, and just as most people I think would be. But it's another thing to like go to the people that are eating the Italian food at the restaurant and like wag your finger in their face and tell them how much you hate them, or you call the restaurant to tell them how much you don't like their food. Like, just move along, my man. So yeah, it's not a huge part of the community that does this and seems to have this ungratefulness, but when you see it, when it comes out of the woodwork, it's just a little bit discouraging, I would say. And I don't want that to take away from the fact that there are a lot of really great people in this community, and, you know, everyone has been, for the most part, very welcoming and accepting of my content. What is your favorite Godzilla design? Godzilla 1955. If you could, what Godzilla movie would you make? Yeah, so I've thought about this one a lot. You know, if you listen to the podcast, I've been giving my thoughts on the direction that I think a -1 sequel could go in, or a GXK follow-up could go in. So I have some ideas there. As for like an original Godzilla movie story, I haven't really thought about it too much, and if I'm honest, I think I would be so intimidated by the idea of pissing off the fandom that I probably wouldn't do it. That's not to say that I couldn't tell a story with original characters that people might enjoy, so something to think about. So I got one question asking me about my favorite figure I currently own, and then a second question asking about my top 5 figures that I have. This one, this one, this one, this one, and that one. Lataro also asks, if you could bring back any dead toy company or any company that used to have license for kaiju figures, which ones would you choose? Yeah, so I think we're actually in a really good space where Super 7, you know, Haya, Tamashii Nations, I think they're all putting out really great stuff. I think that if I had to choose from a company that used to have the license, many people would expect me to say Revoltech, because I think people really liked Revoltech and Revoltech's character choices. I personally have never handled a Revoltech. I might pick up their Attack on Titan stuff, but I'm not familiar with that brand. but I might choose Revoltech because I think a lot of people would be very happy about that. But for me personally, I would choose NECA, but not in the way that you think. I love my NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, the 12-inch tall one. And there was a time where Randy was saying, we're going to do a 12-inch version of the Godzilla 1954. And you know, presumably you would go down the line of their most popular Godzilla figures, you would get a line of 12-inch figures. To my understanding, the 12-inch scale is not currently occupied by any of the companies that we know have the license. It used to be Playmates. They had the 12-inch Godzilla, you know, Toho Classic line figures, but not in like a highly articulated form. So I would love to see NECA come in and pick up the 12-inch scale figure line license and continue doing that, because their last releases in their 6-inch line were really, really good. And I would really love to have a collection of those things to batch my Godzilla 2014. Lataro also asked me lemon with cheese or yogurt with pickles. I feel like yogurt with pickles is just like not a weird thing in the Mediterranean. I feel like you could go to like a Greek restaurant and find some kind of dish that has yogurt and pickles like in a wrap or something, like a souvlaki. So yeah, I'm gonna pick that one. If you could only collect merchandise of one kaiju, just that one kaiju and no one else, who would it be? Excluding the big ones like Godzilla, King Kong, and Gamera, etc. Titanosaurus. If you could make an SHMA or Haya figure of any Goji monster, who would it be? Titanosaurus. What kaiju would you most want from Super 7 other than Ebera. Plague Slayer asks, if you could make your dream Godzilla game, what would it be about? I love this question because this is something that I've thought about for a long time. I think the key to making a good and successful Godzilla game is really appealing to the mass market and making a game that the casual customer is interested in playing. We all know that video games have very high budgets these days. They're very expensive to make. We know that Toho's licensing fee is quite high, relatively speaking. And so games that use the Godzilla characters need to be really profitable for them to be successful. And so I think the key is appealing to genres that people are most interested nowadays. I think that games like Gigabash have their place as, you know, party brawler type thing. Super fun. If you haven't played Gigabash, you're really missing out. But it doesn't have the legs that will capture, you know, a broader general market. And so I was thinking about what might do that. And I think that a turn-based roguelite such as something like Slay the Spire would work really well with Godzilla. And I'll show you a little bit of a demo of what I'm talking about. So I want you to think about this as like a battle or encounter within this type of video game. And so each monster or each combatant would have a set of 5 cards that dictate what kind of moves you can make or what kind of attacks you can do. So if you wanted to move anywhere on the board, move your character 1 space, you could discard any one of your cards. It could be an attack card or it could be an energy card, but you have to discard one of these to move your character. So imagine I'm playing as Godzilla, so I discard an energy card to move up to Anguirus. Imagine you can make 2 moves per round, right? And so now I can play either 1 swipe card to do like light damage to Anguirus, or I could use my second move to do 2 swipe cards to do like a tail swipe type thing, which might have the added effect. Maybe it does a little bit more damage, but it also pushes Anguirus back, right? And so now your opponent has these 5 cards, and maybe they discard one of their cards to move Anguirus over here, something like that. Then they use their other card, like let's say this was an energy card, to do some kind of attack, right? Like rolling ball hits Godzilla. It becomes a game of strategy where you have to figure, okay, well, I don't know which card they spent to move the character. So now there's 4 more cards in play. Well, if they use an energy card here to, you know, do a rolling attack, then it's like, okay, well, I know they start with 2 energy cards. So either they have 3 swipe cards left or they have 2 swipe cards and an energy card. So you get into this state of like, I need to predict or guess what my opponent has, what cards they have remaining. And the idea being that once all of your cards are spent in a turn, then they all get redistributed, redealt back out at the start of your next turn, so you have your options made available to you again. And on the map here, you could have zones where maybe there's a building, where if the building is between 2 characters, then, you know, it acts as a form of defense. Or perhaps the game has a mechanism where, you know, if you cause more havoc, the G-Force or the military will attack the monster you know, doing additional damage to the person that's trashing the map the most. Maybe you want to move towards this health bar, you know, some kind of reactor or whatever that allows you to regain some health, but it's a little bit expensive because you're spending cards to make moves instead of attacking your opponent. So it becomes this give or take situation, right? And in between encounters, like let's imagine I was Godzilla, I defeated Anguirus. I think you could have an option, you know, what kind of path you want to take throughout this your run, right? Because it's a roguelite, you're going to have different kinds of runs. So maybe there's an option here at the top where, you know, there's a nuclear station where you can upgrade some of your cards or some of your abilities. So like, let's say you upgrade this scratch card, and now if you use this scratch card to cast an attack, there's like a 10% crit chance, something like that. Or, you know, if you can upgrade this card, there's a 5% chance that spending this card will add it back to your hand, right? Something like that. So maybe that's the route you want to take, or maybe you want to take the route where you fight a monster. Maybe when you defeat a monster, you gain some kind of perk. Maybe it's a health bonus, or you know, maybe it's a, you know, whatever. You gain some kind of perk that you gain throughout the rest of the run. Maybe something down here where there's like a social icon because there's a group of people that are in need, or maybe you need to defend a group of people as a rescue is taking place. Like maybe G-Force is rescuing civilians and you need to keep a monster away from that crowd as they're being rescued for a certain amount of turns. And perhaps you could have some kind of goodwill meter where if you complete, you know, 4 or 5 of these events, these social people events, then perhaps in the last fight of your run, you know, Mogera or Mechagodzilla shows up to assist you in that scenario. This combines a lot of aspects from different roguelites that I really like. You can see a little bit of Slay the Spire. There's a lot of Binding of Isaac in here, actually. If you know One Step from Eden, I love One Step from Eden. That is a fast-paced roguelite. If you liked Mega Man Battle Network growing up, then you will love One Step from Eden. It's like one of my favorite roguelites. And I do think that there's a market in general, from the general audience, that would play a game like this because it is relatively difficult. It's easy to learn, but difficult to master. And you could have different monsters with different abilities. You know, like what could Gigan do with 2 swipes or a swipe and an energy card, right? Like maybe King Ghidorah uses a swipe and an energy card to like grab and absorb health from the opponent, or perhaps, you know, Megalon uses two swipe cards to dig down and traverse the map a little bit easier. Like you could do so much here. I think that this would be really cool. I have absolutely no programming expertise in this area, so I would have to rely on somebody else to do all the heavy lifting, but if you want an ideas guy, I'm your man. How do you like your steak? This one is most important. Medium rare for my steak, but I also really like beef tataki or beef tartare. Anywhere between blue and medium rare, let's say. Is Monster Arts Final Wars Goji worth it? I don't know. Don't have the figure. I've seen some really good copies. I've seen some really bad copies. Do you like ginger ale? I love ginger ale. It's my favorite soda. Do your students know you do YouTube? If not, had any of them found your channel? If my students do know, none of them have brought it up to me. I've let a couple of my colleagues know that I have a YouTube channel. I haven't linked it to them or anything like that. Because again, I went from having nobody to talk to about this stuff to having a whole community to talk to about this stuff. And the whiplash, I'm, you know, still kind of self-conscious about it in front of my colleagues. But no, to the best of my knowledge, my students don't know. Why do you think people love a goofy or commonly seen as odd Godzilla design like from the Showa era? Is it because of nostalgia? Is it because they love the movie, then the design just kind of follows? Or do they genuinely find the design to be charming? So yeah, as Pandu points out in the rest of this comment, this answer is going to vary from person to person. So, you know, what I'm about to say might ring true for some of you, it might not ring true for others. I would say that there is a charm to the old suits, the old rubber suits, somebody being in those suits and bringing the monsters to life. I think nostalgia is a driving factor. I don't know so much it's that people love the suit design as much as they want to have a tangible representation of the things they saw as a kid on their desk, on their shelf, things like that. For me personally, like a lot of the Showa Godzilla suits, they're not the most physically attractive things. I think a lot of modern Godzilla suits look a lot cooler in my eyes, but there is a charm to those suits being, you know, physically made and having somebody in there bringing them to life that we might have just moved past this point in time where Godzilla suits are ever going to be used again. So I think that's part of what people really like about those suits. That's at least what it is for me. But, you know, the answer will vary from person to person. Do you have any interest in getting into the Transformers franchise? I got into Transformers with the Michael Bay films. You know, I know those aren't the most popular things. And I did get into things like Transformers Prime. I love Transformers Prime. I have the Evolution Skyquake in my display over there. I have the Armada Optimus Prime Commander class over there. I think they're really cool. I don't really have the money to get into another license. I've really scaled down on the things that I collect. I used to collect Marvel Legends, but I don't collect those anymore. So while I really think Transformers are cool, I will probably I will passively observe and enjoy from the sidelines, but if they make some Transformers Prime stuff, I might have to get in there. How many humans have you strangled? 7. No, my real question is what's your favorite Godzilla movie ever? GMK. The soundtrack from Kawatani and the fact that it is a standalone movie really do a lot for me, and I just think it's the coolest movie of the bunch. On your opinion as nuclear engineer, favorite kind of dog? German Shepherd. I grew up around German Shepherds. My parents still have a German Shepherd now. I love German Shepherds. And as a nuclear engineer, I can tell you that the unirradiated German Shepherds are way better than the irradiated German Shepherds. Do you have any interest in Prime 1 studio figures or any figure that you would consider way out of budget? I'm not interested in small toy figures like Super 7 or Haya, but rather premium figures or statues in resin, since I personally feel it's worth your money. Yeah, I mean, if money and space were no factor, then yeah, I would love to collect the high-end stuff, but unfortunately I don't have the means of collecting it. You know, it looks great, it looks amazing, it's something that's far out of my reach, you know. Okay, so this person asked me, hope all is well with you and your family. What top 5 are you looking forward to the most for 2024? I asked top 5 what, and I didn't really get a response. So I don't know, top 5 things I'm looking forward to in 2024. So GXK was on my list for 2024. I'm looking forward to the Ultimate -1 figures from Super 7. I'm really interested to see Haya's releases for Godzilla X Kong, you know, the ones that we haven't seen yet, Beast Glove Kong and Scar King. Hopefully, you know, Behemoth or Tiamat. What else? I don't know if we'll see a Megalon from Monster Arts, but I hope so. And I really want to get my Ling Jihun Crimson Typhoon figure in hand. I've had it on pre-order. My retailer is supposed to send it to me this quarter. I'll unbox it whenever it gets here. Will you get the comic version of Titanic Creations Gorgo action figure? Yes, I will, and I do have a special video planned for it. I need a Space Godzilla for my collection. Do you have a favorite one or one you'd recommend getting? I used to have the OG Monster Art Space Godzilla figure. I didn't really do anything with it, so I sold it a couple years back. I got a lot of money for it, actually. The recent issue of Space Godzilla, I don't remember what it's called, like a special battle version. People seem to really like that one, but I think it's sold out across the board. Super 7's version will be landing soon. It's going to be bigger than the Monster Arts, not quite as articulated, but it has a bunch of crystal accessories, so that one's pretty cool if you're interested in that one. I know a lot of people are hoping for a Trendmasters version of that mold, and I really hope that we get it sooner rather than later, but you might be able to track down a previous issue of the Monster Arts if the new one is very difficult to source, or if you don't like the colorations with some of the spines. And with that, we get to possibly the most important question that someone could have asked me. Where do you see the future of your channel going content-wise? Oh, this question really made me take a step back and reflect on what my channel is like right now and where I would like to see it go in the future. So I think it's really important to talk about some of the ways that I've tried to experiment with this channel. And the results that I've gotten, quite frankly. A long time ago, I did a video with my wife where I had her guess some of the prices and the value of the different figures I had in my collection, and that video did insanely well. Like, it blew away everything else I was putting out by multiple orders of magnitude. It was, for a long time, the most viewed video on my channel. I think it's still at like number 2 or number 3. It was so much fun to make, and a lot of people seem to have fun watching it too, and so I was very happy about that. And so for a long time I was wondering, like, how do I bring back my wife in a meaningful way, because, you know, I think there was fun to be had bringing her in, and as somebody who's not familiar with the franchise, and getting to see what her experience was with the Godzilla stuff. And so to celebrate the release of Godzilla X Kong, I ordered the hot sauces from Jade City Foods. I invited our friend Evan over. We did a whole taste test, and they were supposed to match the hot sauces, which were blind taste tests, to the characters based on their descriptions and based on the flavors of the hot sauces. And I really expected that video to do way better than it actually did. When that video went live, it got like 20 views in the first hour, which was way below the channel average at the time. I had a lot of fun making the thumbnail, and I think that the thumbnail ultimately screwed me over, so I changed it very briefly, and then eventually just decided, well, I like the old thumbnail better, so I changed it back. It was just a disaster of a video release. I'm not really sure what went wrong, but those hot sauces cost me a lot of money to import to Canada, and to be honest, with the amount of effort it took to set up the cameras, to film everything, to edit things, it was a huge time sink into something that, while it was fun, I thought it would help me grow as a channel, you know, attract new audience members. It just didn't do any of that, unfortunately. And so I've had to really take a hard look at the risk reward associated with trying to do new things for the purposes of growing the channel. There are still things that I want to do here that are just for me, just because I think it would be fun to make. You know, I have the idea for a video to make, it's basically going to be like a 30-minute shit post. I love making shit posts. But now I have to be very calculated in spending money on things for the channel that I think will actually, you know, benefit the channel. And so one thing that's important to know about how the YouTube algorithm works is that you only really get an opportunity to attract new members or new viewers if a video that you publish gets watched by most of your normal audience. So if I put out a video and like 80% of people who watch my channel watch the video, then the YouTube algorithm says, hey, everyone really seems to like this. We're going to share it to a wider audience and try to pull in new viewers. If you put a video out there that your regular audience doesn't want to watch, then YouTube doesn't really see a need to put it onto other people's timelines. Like, there are so many videos all vying for a spot on the sidebar that if your regular viewers aren't watching it, then the algorithm just says, yeah, no one else is going to watch it. And this makes it really difficult to experiment with new types of videos. I really have to rely on what people are watching and what kind of trends I'm observing, and I have to get in on those trends. And at this point in time, I think all trends are pointing towards monster arts being the thing that people want to watch and want to see talked about. The few videos that I have monster arts in the title or the discussion is about monster arts, those videos do tend to do much better than other videos that I put out on this channel. And so now the question is, how do I evolve my content to incorporate more monster arts discussion or topics into my videos? And the simple answer is just to buy and review monster arts figures. So I do have Jet Jaguar pre-ordered. I do have Godzilla Evolved pre-ordered. I will have other things in the meantime. If you see back there, if you recognize that box, that's going to be one of the first things. And my goal with those is not to do an extensive review, something like you might expect from Steven or from Shinrab Jira, but I think that there is something to be done with the unboxing of a new figure. And with that, I also want to challenge myself to doing figure reviews in a Google Shorts type format. Like, can I condense everything that you should know about a figure into a 60-second format? That's really interesting to me, and I think it offers something that I'm not currently seeing on my feed, but I think it'd be a good challenge. It'd be good fun. So yeah, expect some monster arts unboxings to come, other figure unboxings. So comic book Gorgo thing back there. I would say expect to start seeing some more unboxings and more things with figures on this channel sometime soon. And the last thing I want to talk about with this question is that channels don't grow infinitely, right? I heard this statistic somewhere that the average YouTube channel lasts about 5 to 6 years, which means there is a ton of channels that never get off the ground, and so they pull that average down. And there are a ton of channels that grow huge, right? And they pull that average back up. For me personally, it's about looking at how much time I can invest into my YouTube channel versus what the benefit is, what the reward is. I'm happy to say that I've been able to make a non-insignificant amount of money doing this, and I'm putting it into, stocks, and hopefully it'll grow. And my goal ultimately is to put all of my YouTube savings toward a trip to San Diego Comic-Con one year with my wife and with my daughter. That's the goal I'm hoping for right now. And once I hit it, I don't know what the next big thing is going to be, or if there will be a next big thing. It might be around the time that I decide to end my channel. I work full-time, I work part-time, I spend time with my wife and my daughter, and I try to help out around the house. Whatever little time I have left over, I'm doing YouTube. There will just come a point where I can't do this anymore. Speaking of, someone else did ask me how my family is doing. We're doing great. Baby's healthy, mom is happy. That's all you can really ask for. I love hanging out with my daughter. She's amazing. She's awesome. She brings a whole new perspective to my life. And, if there comes a point where we want to have another kid, if we want to have a family, then I will probably walk away from the channel. And It will have been a great time. I will have met lots of great people, but you know, you got to decide where to spend your time, especially when you don't have that much of it. So there will come a day where this channel ends. It will be sad, but it will mean that I'm moving on to other more fulfilling aspects of my life. But I think that we can have some fun along the way. So that's it. That's all the questions that were submitted. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question. I imagine this video is going to be like 23 minutes long, at least, by the time you see it. So if you've gotten all the way here, if you've spent all this time watching and listening to me ramble about who I am and what I like to do on this channel, let me know in the comment section down below, if you were to start a YouTube channel, what would you make your content about? I'd like to thank all the Category 3 channel members for their continued support and guidance. I'm trying to talk to these guys as much as I can and to get their feedback on things. If you'd like to be part of our community, early access to videos and emojis, all that good stuff, please consider hitting the join button down below for a very small fee per month. Social links are in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.